I only needed a copy of my birth certificate. The county clerk typed my name, then quietly asked, "Has anyone ever seen your original record?" I frowned. "What original record?" She didn't answer. She just stared at her screen and said, "I think you should sit down." That was the moment I realized the story I'd believed my entire life might not have been mine. My name is Avery Collins. I'm 34 years old, from Columbus, Ohio. And I had no idea one government file was about to change everything. I wasn't investigating my family. I was applying for a passport. My company had selected me for a medical conference in Germany. The only thing missing was a certified copy of my birth certificate. It sounded simple. I had no idea that document would change everything. I walked into the Franklin County Records Office in Columbus, Ohio. I expected to be there 15 minutes. The clerk typed my name, then stopped. She looked at the screen, then at me. "Has anyone ever shown you your original birth record?" I frowned. "I only have one." The clerk clicked through another file, then quietly said, "Your record was amended twice." I laughed nervously. "That has to be a mistake." She shook her head. "No mistake. Both changes came through court orders." Suddenly, this wasn't a routine passport errand anymore. I called my mother, Monica Collins, from the parking lot. Before I finished explaining, she interrupted me. "It was just a clerical correction." Her answer came too quickly. Then she added, "Don't request anything else." That was the moment I stopped believing it was clerical. Mom never asked what the clerk had shown me. She never asked why Arizona appeared in the archive. She simply told me to stop looking. That meant she already knew what I had found, and whatever it was. She had been afraid of this day for years. Before I left, the clerk handed me a court reference number. "If you file an archive request," she said, "you may receive the original index." I folded the paper carefully. It looked ordinary, just numbers and letters. But it was the first key to a life I didn't remember. That evening, I visited my parents. Dad, Daniel Collins, was watching television. When I mentioned Arizona, he muted the screen. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he whispered, "You should let old things stay buried." Buried. Not mistaken, not corrected. Buried. The next morning, Aunt Rachel Collins called. Mom had clearly spoken to her. Rachel said, "Your mother saved you." I hadn't told her what I found. Still, she already had an answer ready. That was my first proof. This secret belonged to more than one person. 7 days later, a certified envelope arrived from Arizona. I placed it on my kitchen table. For 10 minutes, I couldn't open it. I had wanted answers, but holding them felt different. Finally, I broke the seal. Inside was a limited court index. One line stopped me cold. Original name, Ana Elena Ruiz. Below it was another. Legal guardian, Sofia Navarro. Not Monica. Not Daniel. Someone I had never heard of. I stared at the page and understood one terrible thing. My family hadn't lost my history. They had rewritten it. I read the name again. Ana Elena Ruiz. It didn't feel familiar. But somehow, it didn't feel completely strange either. That name stayed in my head all night. The next morning, I searched public records in Mesa, Arizona. Thousands of results appeared. Then one address matched the court file. It was only 6 miles from the hospital listed on my original record. Someone had actually lived there. I called Mom again. I found the name Sofia Navarro. The line went completely silent. Then she quietly said, "She doesn't matter." Not, "I don't know her." Not, "You're mistaken." Just, "She doesn't matter." That sentence told me she absolutely did. That evening, Dad called unexpectedly. He tried changing the subject. Then he accidentally asked, "Did they send you the Arizona file?" I froze. I had never told him Arizona had sent anything. Somehow, he already knew. I drove back to my parents' house. Mom wasn't home. Dad was asleep. In the attic. I found every family photo album. My childhood started around age 3. Nothing earlier. No baby pictures. No first birthday. No hospital photos. It was like my first years had been erased. Inside an old Christmas decoration box, I found a single loose photograph. A little girl, a dark-haired woman holding her hand. On the back, someone had written, Anna and Sofia, Mesa. I had never seen either before. Yet somehow, the woman felt familiar. The photo showed a church sign in the background. I searched the name online. The church still existed. I called immediately. An elderly volunteer answered. When I mentioned Sofia Navarro, she became very quiet. Then she asked, Are you Anna? My heart stopped. She couldn't tell me much, but she remembered one thing. Sofia never missed a Sunday. And she never let little Anna out of her sight. Little Anna. Not Claire. Somebody else remembered. The child I'd apparently been. That night, Mom showed up at my apartment. She never called first. She never visited unexpectedly. Yet there she was. She looked at the Arizona envelope, still sitting on my kitchen table. Then she quietly asked, You haven't contacted anyone, have you? Not. What did you find? Not. Are you okay? She was worried about someone else. The next morning, I called the Arizona courthouse. The clerk found my case instantly. Then her voice changed. I'm sorry. The full guardianship file is sealed. I asked, Can anyone request it? She answered, Only the person named in the case. Or their attorney. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just a family secret. Someone had gone through court to keep it hidden. I wasn't giving up. The sealed court file bothered me too much, so I hired an Arizona family records attorney. After hearing my story, she asked only one question. Did your mother ever tell you she fought for custody? She hadn't. Not once. 2 weeks later, my attorney called. We've located the guardianship case. But something doesn't make sense. The original judge never ordered permanent separation. Someone had requested the file be sealed years later. That wasn't normal. Someone wanted the past to disappear. The first court document finally arrived. I expected to see Mom's signature. Instead, Dad's name appeared too. Daniel Collins. I stared at it. According to the records, he hadn't even lived in Arizona at that time. So why had he signed sworn statements there? The next document shocked me even more. It wasn't written by a judge. It came from the court-appointed social worker. One paragraph had been highlighted. Continued contact with court-appointed guardian Sofia Navarro is recommended until the child is safely reunited with her legal mother. Ms. Navarro has requested only periodic welfare updates and supervised transition visits. I read it twice, then a third time. Sofia hadn't asked to keep me. She hadn't asked to adopt me. She only wanted to know that I was safe. Everything my family had told me was beginning to fall apart. For years, my family repeated the same story. Sofia tried to take you. The court file told a completely different story. Sofia never petitioned for permanent custody. She never asked to adopt me. Instead, she asked the court for only 2 things: that I remained safe, and that she receive occasional welfare updates, until my life became stable again. She never tried to replace my mother. She never tried to keep me. She simply refused to walk away from a little girl who needed protection. Everything I'd believed for 34 years had been backwards. My attorney found another record. It wasn't under Avery Collins. It wasn't even under Ana Ruiz. It was filed under a domestic violence case. One name immediately stood out: Carl Dawson. I had never heard it before. Yet somehow, his file was connected to mine. The police report answered everything. Carl wasn't Sofia's boyfriend. He was Mom's. The report described repeated violence, hospital visits, emergency calls, protective orders. Then one sentence stopped me cold. Child temporarily placed with Sofia Navarro for safety. Sofia hadn't taken me away. She had protected me. As I kept reading, I found Mom's signed agreement. She promised the court that Sofia would continue seeing me. Gradually, safely, with professional supervision. 6 weeks later, Mom moved to Ohio. Every visit ended. Every promise disappeared. Then my attorney found something unexpected. Not birthday cards, not years of letters. A sealed affidavit. It had been filed by Sofia years earlier. In it, she confirmed she wasn't seeking custody. She simply provided the court with her permanent address and one request. If Anna ever asks about her early childhood, please tell her where to find me. The affidavit was never forwarded. Soon afterward, the entire file was sealed. Sofia never kept chasing me. She trusted the legal system. The legal system failed both of us. That evening, my attorney called one last time. Her voice sounded unusually gentle. Avery, I found Sofia. She's still in Arizona. Then she quietly added, she never searched for you. She believed the court would contact you one day, if you ever asked for the truth. The next morning, I dialed the Arizona number. A soft voice answered. Hello? For a second, I couldn't speak. Then I whispered, is this Sofia Navarro? She went completely silent. Finally, she quietly asked, Anna? She still remembered my first name. We talked for almost an hour. Sofia never called herself my mother. Never once. She smiled gently. I always believed one day you'd have the right to choose. I left my address with the court. After that, I never tried to find you. I didn't want to violate the court's decision. She looked at me. I only hoped that if you ever searched, you'd know where I was. Sofia opened a small wooden chest. Inside were photographs, my hospital bracelet, my baby blanket, my first drawing, and a tiny pair of shoes. She had protected memories. My family had erased. I suddenly realized someone had loved me enough to keep every piece of my childhood. That afternoon, my company called. My passport application had finally cleared. The medical conference in Berlin, Germany was only 3 weeks away. I almost laughed. One passport application had uncovered my entire past. Now, it was sending me toward my future. Before ending the call, my manager smiled. Good news. You've also been selected as this year's keynote speaker. I froze. I thought I was only attending. Now, I'd be representing our entire company. At that exact moment, my personal life and professional life collided. That evening, Mom showed up again. This time, I asked only one question. Why did you stop Sofia from seeing me? She closed her eyes, then quietly said, Carl violated the protective order. He kept asking where we'd gone. The court accidentally released paperwork with information that should never have been shared. She took a deep breath. I believed that if anyone in Arizona knew where we were, he would find us. For the first time, her silence sounded less like anger and more like fear. If you've ever learned that someone's biggest lie came from their biggest fear, comment. The truth sets you free. After Mom left, Dad stayed behind. For the first time in my life, he told me everything. I knew Sofia wasn't dangerous. I signed papers because your mother promised she'd keep her word. His voice cracked. But we moved, and she never did. Dad hadn't created the lie. He'd been too afraid to stop it. Dad walked to the garage. A few minutes later, he returned with an old cassette recorder. I've carried this for years. It was a recorded family counseling session. On the tape, Mom promised a counselor that Sofia would always remain part of my life. She never kept that promise. The recording changed everything. 2 days later, I received another email. The conference organizers in Berlin wanted me to speak about patient identity systems. The topic made me smile. For 34 years, I hadn't fully understood my own identity. Now, I was being asked to help improve someone else's. Sometimes life has a strange sense of timing. Before leaving for Germany, I booked one extra flight, not to Europe, to Arizona. For the first time, I wasn't chasing documents. I wasn't chasing court records. I was finally going to meet the woman who had honored the court's decision for decades. 2 days before my flight to Germany, I landed in Tucson, Arizona. My hands were shaking. Not because I was afraid, because 34 years of unanswered questions were waiting on the other side of one front door. When Sofia opened it, neither of us spoke. We simply hugged. Some reunions don't need introductions. Sofia invited me inside. She handed me an old photo album. The first picture showed a little girl laughing in a backyard. Written underneath, Anna's second birthday. I stared at it. For years, I'd believed my childhood started in Ohio. It hadn't. An entire chapter of my life had been hidden from me. Then Sofia handed me one final envelope. Inside was a copy of the affidavit she'd filed decades earlier. Attached to it was a handwritten letter from my mother. In it, Mom admitted something I'd never imagined. Months after we left Arizona, Carl Dawson violated the protective order again. Then she learned a court filing had accidentally exposed Sofia's address. She panicked. She believed that if Carl found Sofia, he'd eventually find us too. So she cut every remaining connection. At first, it was about survival. Years later, Carl was gone. The danger had ended. But admitting the truth would have meant admitting she'd broken the custody agreement, erased my legal identity, and hidden Sofia's role in saving my life. Fear became guilt. Guilt became silence. And silence lasted 32 years. If you've ever learned that fear can make people destroy the people they love, comment, "Truth heals." A week later, I stood on stage in Berlin, representing my company, speaking at an international medical conference. My presentation was about patient identity, accurate records, and why every document matters. Halfway through, I stopped for a second. Nobody in the audience knew. Those words had just described my own life. After my presentation, someone introduced herself. She was an attorney, specializing in family record restoration. She'd heard my story during a networking session. Then she said, "You know, you can legally restore parts of your original record." For the first time, the past wasn't just something I understood. It was something I could reclaim. When I returned to Ohio, Mom called a family meeting. She wanted everyone to move on. Instead, I placed one folder on the table: the court file, the counseling recording, the sealed affidavit, the original Arizona birth index. No speeches, no anger, just evidence. Nobody challenged a single page. The room stayed silent until Aunt Rachel quietly spoke. "I helped your mother bury the past." I looked at her. She lowered her eyes. When the court sent notice of Sofia's affidavit, I told Monica not to respond. "I thought reopening Arizona would put all of you in danger." I asked quietly, "Even after Carl was gone?" Rachel started crying. "No. After that, we were protecting ourselves." No one defended her. Not even Mom. Months later, I didn't erase the life I'd built. I simply completed it. Legally, I added Anna Elena to my name. I remained Avery Collins, but Anna Elena was no longer hidden inside a sealed file. I wasn't rejecting the parents who raised me. I was refusing to erase the child I'd been before Ohio. For the first time, both parts of my identity existed together. Mom called one last time. "Can we start over?" I answered honestly. "We can start telling the truth. But we can't start over." Trust doesn't return just because someone finally admits they lied. It returns only after they live differently. Whether that happened would be her choice. People think a birth certificate tells you where your life began. Mine didn't. It took one county clerk, one forgotten court file, one woman who stepped in when my life wasn't safe, and one passport application to uncover the truth. I flew to Germany because of my career. I flew to Arizona because of my past. One trip built my future. The other gave me back my name. I walked into a county office looking for proof of where I was born. I walked out carrying proof of who had protected me when I couldn't protect myself. Sofia never spent decades searching for me. She simply honored the court's decision. She left one affidavit, one permanent address, and one promise. If I ever wanted the truth, she would be there. In the end, I wasn't found by someone chasing me. I found the woman who quietly trusted that one day the truth would find its way back to me. And the truth didn't give me a new identity. It gave me back the one that had been waiting for me all along.